What's up, nerds? Welcome to the new show here on THORN called The Morning Tidings. I'll be your host, Balak T, and I'll be talking about stuff like video games and other nerdy stuff, things that interest me, things that concern me, and things that make me happy. And we'll getting a little bit of everything of those in today's show, when I'll be talking about Destiny. So make sure to continue watching. So nerds, can you imagine a Destiny that had the Taken King expansion already within it? That was the original plan at Bungie before the entire thing got remade in the last second. In the original Destiny, there was supposed to be Osiris, which is now used as a PvP thing, and we'll talk about that later. But in the original plan for Destiny, he was supposed to be almost a guide or a mentor. People have drawn lines between him and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he was supposed to be on Mercury, which you're able to go to now only through the Trials of Osiris, and then you'll go to the Lighthouse, which is on Mercury. So the planet Mercury was supposed to be originally in the game. Also the character the Crow, which is now known as Prince Uldren, and the Crows are now the royal army for the Queen, which we'll talk about more later. And Rasputin, which we now only know as a Warmind, was supposed to have a separate character, an exo character, that we were supposed to help and save a lot through the entire story. And in some kind of DLC, it was supposed to be revealed that the Warmind was actually just controlling this exo as a puppet. That Rasputin was, the Warmind the entire time. There was also supposed to be an AI on Mars, which was called Charlemagne. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. And on Mars, there was also supposed to be another social hub. We got the reef, but who is on the reef? I mean, we all just stay in the tower. And there was other things that were lacking as well, like the classic scrim from the Halo series. We thought that Bungie would add that properly, but you can do the scrim now, but you can't really choose who you're going up against, so it's totally random. But there is a separate way to actually do that. There's a way to trick the system and choose who you want to be paired with. I'll leave a link in the description for the website that teaches you how to do that. So the last minute reboot of Destiny. In 2013, Destiny was pretty much ready to be, just put out there. But they put together a supercut of all the cutscenes and the small story cutscenes and everything, and showed it to, I think, Activision, which already by then had made a 10-year contract with Bungie, worth over $500 million. And they didn't like it. They thought the story was too linear, and they wanted a more free-flowing thing where you can jump in and jump out whatever you wanted. And so it was changed. In 2013, they decided to change the entire game, tear it completely apart and piece it together. And an almost Frankenstein project, it was described as. They, former employee or current employee, we're not quite sure, at Bungie has been heard saying that they took a piece of A and they took a piece of X and put them together and made then another story point. So they were that's what they meant by the Frankenstein. They're just stitching together a game from torn piece parts. And the employees at Bungie, they said also that the original pre-boot, as they called it, of Destiny, had a lot more story to it. It was a story-driven game that's why they said that it was too linear, I guess. But it had a really good story, which, as we know, there weren't that much of in the vanilla Destiny. So they decided, instead of trying to make a good story, which wasn't basically possible with the time they had, because it was supposed to be released early 2014, and this was in the middle of 2013. So they decided to perfect the gameplay instead of perfecting the story. They put in a lot of time and effort to making the game as fluent as possible, since they knew that the story is going to be lacking. Recently, we even got to see behind the scenes of making of the sounds on this week at Bungie. So there we saw, I think, what was it? They shot machine guns and rifles into something in the desert to get the perfect sound for the game. This is how much time they were putting into the game. There's a quote from an anonymous Bungie employee that said, "We could get things to the base level of acceptability. That's what we shipped," which is basically just admitting that, well, they shipped something that wasn't completely ready in their own eyes, but they had pretty much no control over it. No one has confirmed this. People have tried to be in touch with Activision and with Bungie, but everyone denies it. And Staten, who was over Bungie at the time, he doesn't want to confirm it either. And it's rumored that everything that they did was against his wishes. He was the one who worked on the game before it was rewritten. And in September, when the game was released, it was confirmed that he had left the company, but it's rumored that he left at the very beginning, just in July, when this pre-boot was turned into a reboot. Another complaint about the vanilla Destiny is, of course, the lack of story, as we were talking about, but the story was moved from the game and into the so-called Grimoire cards, which are really interesting, but it's kind of annoying for a lot of people to have to go to a separate location to look up the story that should have already been in the game. But I'll talk more about the Grimoire cards later. If you want to look up Grimoire cards, by the way, I highly recommend checking out the website, the Ishtar Collective. They've compiled all the Grimoire cards into very comfortable categories. I'll leave a link in the description for that as well, maybe even on the screen. We'll just see. I think basically summed up, vanilla Destiny, it could be summed up with a sentence from the game, from the stranger, a sentence that if you play Destiny and you like Destiny, you will be familiar with. And it's the sentence, I quote, "I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain." So let's talk about Destiny's growth from vanilla, because the game has changed a lot since it came out first in 2014 in September. We've had 3 expansions, or 2 expansions and 2 DLCs and 1 expansion really. The first one is called The Dark Below. You all know it if you played the game. But here's a short, I'll just read what I have here about it so that you can know what it brought to the game. The main contact in the game was Eris Moore, which was a former Guardian. She went into the Hellmouth on her own, or with a group of, I don't remember how many Guardians, but a few. And she was the only one who made it out, because she went after Crota and failed. And the Hellmouth is a new place, obviously, where you go through the Crota's End Raid and several missions later also as well. So the raid was level 30 to 33. I think the Vault of Glass was a similar level, if I remember correctly. But it bumped it up a bit, because with the Dark Below, you got new light level, a higher light level, got a few new strikes, new weapons, armor, and PvP modes. And for me personally, one of the most important things that came in the Dark Below was the sword and the tumbler. The sword in the Dark Below, you just got to hold the sword in a mission. And in the raid. I'm not going to spoil that too much if you haven't done the raid by now. But in a mission that you probably completed, you get to hold the sword and just kill a couple of guys. But for me, it was more of a promise for the future that they were going to add swords. And immediately when I got that sword into my hand, I was thinking, yeah, they're bringing swords into the game. It's going to come with a later expansion. I just know it. And as you probably know, it did. and the Tumblr as well. You know, it was an exclusive thing that you had to pre-order and blah blah blah. You know, all that bullshit. But the Tumblr as well was a promise for something in the future, that Sparrows would be more than just something that brought you from point A to point B. You know, it would be something that you could play with and have fun with, which of course we really got now, or we got in the Sparrow Racing League. But the story in the Dark Below, it was kind of shallow. You know, it wasn't all that interesting, and it basically served more as a setup for the Taken King expansion. The House of Wolves expansion, which was the second expansion for the game. I'm just gonna do the same thing here. Read over basically what it brought you, and yeah, the important parts that were brought to the game. Cheers. It brought us the Reap, a new social hub that, well, honestly wasn't all that interesting. You know, it has a few new characters that you needed to talk to be able to complete the story that came with the expansion. But since the Taken King, you know, I've gone there like a couple of times. You know, I went there when I started upgrading, of course, my new characters, because I hadn't finished the Taken King or the House of Wolves on my Warlock, so I went there to finish that there. But other than that, it's not really that interesting unless you're into the Trials of Osiris. The main contact was an agent of the Queen. The Queen of the Awoken was a character that was introduced alongside the Crow, which I was talking about earlier, which is Prince Uldren, her brother. He's not called the Crow anymore in the game. As I said earlier, the Awoken Queen has her own army protecting thing that are called the Crows. You know, it's just like a royal guard, really. And they brought with them the Prison of Elders, which is an arena. It brought a completely new way of playing, a new way of interacting with your friends and with enemies. It was really exciting, actually. To this day, I really love playing through Prison of Elders. And even though it's a little bit too easy now, even through Skolas, it isn't that much of a hassle these days if you're a high enough light level, if you have the newest things, you know. So basically the story is that the Fallen have started a rebellion against the Queen. Skolas, the captain of the House of Wolves, was trying to unite all the houses, which are the Kings, the Devils, the Winters, the Exiles, and the Wolves. And they were trying to unite them to, I don't know, take down the Queen or something. I don't quite remember. It's been a while. In this expansion, we didn't get our new raid like in the Dark Below. Instead, we got Skolas, level 35 Prison of Elders, which in its time was a pain in the ass, and I actually never finished it before the Taken King came out, because I didn't really have any opportunities to do so, but it was really hard. And it brought with them the Trials of Osiris, which we were talking about earlier, with the Lighthouse of Mercury. So in the House of Wolves, we got to visit Mercury, if you're good enough to get there, of course. Trials of Osiris are a PvP mode where I think you have an X amount of loses that you can get, and you have to get all the wins in a row to be able to get to the lighthouse. I don't remember how many it was, but it was something like that. The House of Wolves also brought with it new light levels, or higher light levels, new strikes, weapons, armors, and PvP modes, just like the one before. I really liked the story in the House of Wolves. It was a much more interesting story, and it made a lot of sense. Also, it also brought with it a promise for the future, just like the Dark Below did. The sidearm that you got. Immediately when I got the sidearm, just like with the sword, I was like, okay, this is going to be a thing. We're going to get these. This is awesome. And the sidearm that we got first was actually really OP. You know, you could just do on the Fallen, and they would just die immediately. And so we have come to the Taken King, the Comet, as it was called. by the leaked information about all the expansions that were coming to Destiny back in the day. Yeah, the Taken King, it brought a lot of stuff. I've written it down here. I'm just going to go through it quickly. The Taken King brought with it 2 destinations, which were Phobos, moon on Mars, and the Dreadnought, which is an orbiting ship in the rings of Saturn, which is a giant place, and the home of Oryx. He is the father of Crota, and he's come to avenge his son's murder, or as he calls it, and you have to fight him. He brings with him the new race, the Taken, which is basically all the other races, Taken and copied, because, you know, first when I heard this, I was like, what? That's lazy, you know, just taking all the other races, copying them and putting them like in a different animation. But the story behind it is really interesting. You know, he takes the bodies and it's like zombies almost. You should really read the Grimoire cards about the Taken. They're called, let's see here, the Books of Sorrow. Really check them. You should really check them out on the Ishtar Collective. Well, it brought with it the Court of Oryx as well, which is a Dreadnought activity with 3 modes or 3 difficulties. You go in with, well, as many as the lobby allows you to go in with, because as many as it feels like it can join you in this activity. Just go into a platform. You have to put in something of a token into a light, and once you use that token, it can be upgraded to the next difficulty token, and then you can do that, and then you can get the hardest difficulty token. You have to do I think there's a number of times you have to do it. From the easy one to the medium one, you have to do it 3 times and maybe 6 times or something for the other one, I don't remember. But it's really fun, like once or twice, but it gets old, you know, you're just fighting enemies, it's always the same enemies, so you know how they behave and you learn how to do everything, and it's really easy. But there was a raid with the Taken King as well, called the King's Fall, which follows the light level instead of your actual level, because the Taken King brought with a new leveling system, which is the light level. So the King's Fall raid has a requirement of 290 or 310. That's the regular mode and the hard mode. The Taken King also brought with it new subclasses, which was really exciting. It was speculated a long time ago about new subclasses, because when you went up to your subclass, you always saw the empty one, and they were putting out they were saying things like, well, maybe it's like you could put a specific way of having your subclass there, so you can customize it and then save it there. But we knew that there was another one coming. And these subclasses, they are awesome, especially the stories behind them. You have to go and you have to get your new subclass. You have to earn it. And the stories about how you earn it, they're amazing. I really recommend just making a new character, going through all the 3 stories for the Hunter, the Warlock, and the Titan. They're all really good. The Taken King also brought to life the rather dull and boring Vanguard Guardians, which are in the Hall of Guardians in the tower. They are Ikora Ray, the Warlock, Commander Saval, the Titan, and of course Kate 6, the Hunter, who is voiced by Nathan Fillion. You know, with the Taken King, we finally got to see some comedy, because this game has been taking itself very seriously so far. And we got to see Kate 6, you know, play around with the others and being sort of an asshole, but really fun. So that was a different side of Destiny that we had never seen before, and a positive one. It changed the voice actor for the Ghost as well, from Peter Dinklage to Nolan North, which I think they're going to have to do a lot if they're going to keep up this Ghost thing with the next iterations of Destiny. Then they're going to have to do that a lot, because you keep hearing that voice again and again and again and again, and you know, it gets old. And of course, the Taken King brought with it swords and sidearms, which, as I was saying earlier, I thought of as a promise for the future with the other updates, because I just knew they were coming. And then they came, and they are awesome. The swords, It's just changed everything about how I personally play Destiny. And of course the new subclasses change everything about how you play. There's another video of me playing as the Night Stalker, the Hunter. I'll leave a link in the description for that, maybe even a thing here. Let's see, what more did it bring? It brought so much, man. It upgraded the space on your vault for the weapons and armor, but not for the third section. I don't remember what it's called. Like the collectibles. I really want to upgrade there as well. Also, the gunsmith is now not pointless. You can go there, you can buy weapon parts, which you are really gonna need after the Taken King. Like seriously, I am always out of weapon parts because you're always infusing rather than destroying, which is brilliant. The infusion, I think the Taken King brought the infusion as well. But at the gunsmith now, you can go and you can get test subject weapons, something like that. Weapons that you take out and you have to fill up a bar doing something very specific, like headshots or killing Fallen or killing Taken or whatever. And then when you're finished, you get some XP from the gunsmith. And when you go up in rank now at the gunsmith, you can order for 2,500 glitter each Wednesday. You can order up to 5 weapons, I think, from him so that he is selling. But then you have to get up to level 5 because for each level you get to purchase a new weapon. And these are legendary weapons, mind you. So they are actually worth checking out. A lot of them are really good. And he also gives you quests to get class-specific exotic weapons, like handguns for the hunter and shotgun for I don't remember who had what, but you get like really specific class things that the other classes can't use. And they also fixed the quest system. They made you able to track, I think, up to 5 missions or bounties at the same time, so that you can check that out every time you press on the touchpad or select button. They also brought in new public events, of course. The Taken had to appear in some public events, which have really hard mini bosses. Of course, they brought new strikes, weapons, armors, and PvP modes. That's all the other ones. They made a slight change in the Nightfall. They changed it so that when you die or your entire team dies, you are not returned up to orbit again. You just return to the last save point or checkpoint. People are arguing about whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, because, you know, it could be a good thing because it's really comfortable. When we were going through a Nightfall and everybody dies, usually you got pissed off because you had to start all over again. But some say it's bad because you might be getting a bit more relaxed. You know, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be one of the most challenging things out there. And now it's just gotten a bit easier, you know. The Taken King brought with it a big and brilliant story. You know, the story behind the Taken King, I'm not going to spoil anything there other than that, as I said, Oryx is coming to avenge his son Crota. You really need to check it out because the story is really good. And as I have said many times, check out the Grimoire stories, the books of sorrow, which are the history behind how the Taken were made. They were a different race and became who they are now, which is really cool. So let's talk about Destiny today, year 2, as it is referred to. Today there's not a whole lot going on in Destiny, really. They haven't been too good about showing us what's going to happen in the future. But we have had a few hints and some confirms. So let me talk a little bit about that. Today, what we mostly do is sit around and wait for the timed events, which are dominating Destiny at the moment. We've had time events like, of course, the Iron Banner and the Trials of Osiris, which come by regularly. And we had the Festival of the Lost, the Crimson Doubles, and the brilliant Sparrow Racing League, or SRL, which was just that was amazing fun. Bring that back. Please bring that back. So I was looking around a bit on the internet, seeing how people were liking the timed events versus the big expansions. And I found, this is a quote from an anonymous forum user: "I'd rather pay $40 for 2 expansions that are a bit further apart, are permanent, and have both PvE and PvP content, than these lackluster events every 2 months that are limited for a week or a few weeks and have mostly PvP content coupled with microtransactions." And that seems to be a really popular opinion. People want the big expansions because, as he said, none of this stays, it's just a fleeting moment of happiness. We get, like the Sparrow Racing League, I got really excited. It was cool, you were building a better racing gear. You were getting a totally different just set of armor for racing. And you got a new Sparrow that was faster. You could change that Sparrow up to another Sparrow that looked a bit different. You had cool visuals, you had different stats and stuff. And, and then it was just like, just disappeared. So I agree on that part. I want things that are permanent rather than just PvP stuff that disappears. Like the Crimson Double, it was fun, but it's not something that you do every day, all day, And today we have actually had microtransactions. So microtransactions, they are a hot topic, you could say. It's people have very strong and very different opinions about microtransactions. But Destiny has assured us, at least they did assure us, that the microtransactions in Destiny will solely be cosmetics. Like at the moment, they have the Eververse trading company that you can go to in the tower, where you can buy for silver, which you have to purchase again for your own money, real life money. And for the silver, you can buy stuff like a Sparrow or a Horn or emotes. But, you can't help but wonder, once they have microtransactions in there, are they going to be more important in the future? In Destiny 2, are we going to have to buy armor with silver, They've said that it won't happen, but, it's hard to trust that at this point. A bit more about what we know about Year 2, what will come later. As I said, at the moment we have cosmetic microtransactions and free missions/events that are basically, that's the only thing that's happening here. And we are wondering, will we get more later? Derek Carroll, a Bungie employee, has been quoted saying, "With Taken King, we're moving to a more event-based model, things like the Festival of the Lost and Sparrow Racing, which is our winter event." It was way back when. And then smaller events such as the Iron Banner and the Trials of Osiris every weekend. Rather than doing these giant monolithic DLC packs, this way everybody who's an owner of Taken King can enjoy these things. But we feel like we need more, It's Year 2 now. We've had a lot of promises about what will come in Year 2. And we are about to have some more updates later, which I'll talk about in a bit. But let's just talk about what we would like to see in these updates. Of course, more stuff. Like, they have been adding exotics, like willy-nilly, from Year 1 over to Year 2. They are being updated every now and again. So basically, the problem now is that you can have all the Year 2 exotics, and it's not all that hard. You should ask Inspector Haynes, who gets a lot of exotics. So you can grind and grind, but you're never gonna get something new, or you're gonna come to a point where you can't get anything new, and you're just trying to raise your light level. And shaders, I would like to see a bit more variations in the shaders. There are a few colors, there are a lot of shaders now, but they all follow certain patterns. You have they have like 10 shaders that are red, white, and blue, just in different with the colors in different spots. I would like to see more variations. And ships and sparrows, you have to look at these things all the time. It would be nice to see something different. The ships are just being called the loading screens, because really that's what they are. you just see the ships when you're loading from one area to the next. And you get tired of looking at the same ship forever. And the same with the Sparrow. Of course, we got new Sparrows now, but I would like to see even more with, well, more creative looks as well. More class items, that's definitely something that I would like to see. I've been wearing the same hood now since the Taken King came out for my hunter. You know, it's the coolest one that I've seen so far. I found a cool hood, but it was green because I keep getting green stuff. I don't know why. So I would like to see more of those things. More, well, to use the other word I used earlier, just more variation, more creative things, I guess. And one problem with Destiny today is that all the old stuff from year one, that's all now just been wiped out as something to do because they're basically just obsolete. Like the Vault of Glass, Crota's End, and the Prison of Elders, the raids, and the arena. Because you can't get anything there that you want. You know, you can go through them and play through them as a fun thing, but you're gonna be really OP for one, because the levels haven't really been balanced. So you're going in there as a god, just destroying everything. And you're not going to be getting any loot that you want out of it, except maybe blueprints for year 2. But it's not a big chance, honestly. So today's, you know, people today are wondering, why should anybody buy Destiny today? Because you have very little content really for the people who buy Destiny today. They just have the Taken King that can do anything for them. And people have been saying like, okay, so let's look, if they continue the same way, in 10 years, when the Activision contract is over and we stop getting these games, we'll have just as much content as we have right now, because they're just destroying the old content with the new. So that would be something that I would really want to see fixed. I want to be able to play the Vault of Glass as in the same difficulty range as I did in the old days. You know, it was a really good raid, and Crota's End as well, but now it's barely worth it. So yeah, then the question is, what's up next? I have a quote here from this week at Bungie. They said, "We know we're on the hook to tell you more about the things that we'll do to infuse your PvE lifestyle with challenges. These shows are being planned too. There are steps being taken every day on both fronts." So basically what that means is there is going to be more PvE content, because we have been getting a lot of PvP. So there's going to be more PvE content. So that's basically been confirmed. But all that's really holding up Destiny today is just Deej and his team over at Bungie, and the community. You know, this week at Bungie really keeps us informed about what's happening at Bungie, and lately they've been having the behind the scenes things, which are fun things to watch while we're waiting. The Ishtar Collective, as I mentioned many times, definitely we can go over there and read the Grimoire cards that we haven't been bothered to read in pieces now there. And the public event tracker from the community as well is something that was added because it was missing in the game. You can go there and you can see when the events are coming. You can go do the events that you want or need. So the future confirmed. I'm just going to say a few things that they have already confirmed with the spring update that will be coming now. There's going to be an increase in light level. We're going to get some new weapons, new armors, and some PvE story, which is basically a part of what all the expansions brought us. We don't know how big this is going to be, but it's going to be smaller than the one that is coming later this year, which people are theorizing will be the next Comet. But they have told us that this will all be free, so that's going to be positive. This big update that's coming later this year, we have absolutely no information about anything that's going to be in that update. There's no confirmations, there's no word on anything. We just know that it's going to be a significant expansion. So what that means, I don't know. but it's going to be a bit bigger than the one that comes this spring. So that's going to be fun. We can look forward to that. I have a few speculations on what will be in the big update. And mind you, as I'm saying, this is only speculation, but Kotaku have been saying that there's a raid on Mars that will probably be coming now. You know, it's not confirmed. Hopefully some new locations like Europa was mentioned in Kotaku's article. Mercury, probably get to see more of that. Maybe some more stuff on Phobos, because really there was a really linear thing that we got to go through there. And the moon is pretty big. That Phobos moon is pretty big. And maybe even some unexplored areas on the Dreadnought, because the Dreadnought is huge and I don't think we've been through it all. Hopefully we'll get some more vault space upgrades. The part that I was talking about, which didn't get an upgrade earlier, the collectibles, I hope for that to be upgraded. Finally, I'm going to talk about what I'm hoping for and wishing for will be in Destiny 2, which is coming in 2017. The number one thing that I want to keep from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 is my Guardian. I feel like I have a really good, you know, after playing through all these things, there's been a lot of hardships and a lot of, what you say, moments of glory, where you barely made it through something really difficult and, you know, clawed your way out of trouble. And you get a connection to your character. You know, I really hope, if it's going to be in the same universe and some slightly in the same time frame, then I really hope that we get to keep our Guardians, because I want to go in there with my Hunter and kick some ass in the new locations. So I think it would just be a lot better for immersion for Destiny 2 if we got to keep our characters. Because getting this connection to a new character, it's going to be hard, you know. It's already hard, you know, when you're playing one video game. Let's just say you're playing The Witcher, and then you're going to get a connection to Geralt, you know. You're going to feel, because you're going through him with a story and you're doing this and that, and then all of a sudden you're jumping over to Destiny. Let's just say Destiny, and you know, then you're gonna have to rebuild an entire relationship of trust and love and, you know, whatever. So it's going to be hard, especially within the same universe. So let's just hope, because it is an MMO, let's hope that you get to bring your character. Plus, that technology is already here. You can see it. You were able to transfer your character from GTA from the PlayStation 3 or to the PlayStation 4. You know, it was just a matter of transferring a little bit of data from here to here. So let's hope that they will use that technology or something. You know, this is just something that I want, not something that I've heard about and may be coming or anything. Of course, I want the lore to be more in the game rather than in the Grimoire cards in the future. They've heard all the negative things, and they know that pages like the Ishtar Collective are holding them up on this front, because who has time to read through all these Grimoire cards and connect the dots and everything, you know? It would feel better to have some more story in the game rather than having to seek it outside. But I really like the Grimoire cards, so I'm not saying get rid of them, just put more story into the next game, you know? Speaking of story, I would really like to see some story about the Nine, which are, we don't know anything about the Nine really. Not that much, at least. We know that Sewer is working for him, for them, and that there's some really powerful force that should be reckoned with. Maybe they could be the bad guy in the next one. I don't know, but I want to know more about them, and I would like to play something that evolves around them. Of course, I hope that they bring with them the swords and the sidearms. That would really just ruin my game if they didn't bring those two with them, because they really changed the game for better. Of course, I hope that the Sparrow Racing League is going to be in number 2. As you maybe have heard by now, that I'm pretty passionate about the Sparrow Racing League, so I wanted it to be in the next one. It felt like we were beta testing it, so for number 2 or for another expansion this year. So if it doesn't come the other expansions now, I hope it comes for Destiny 2. It would be cool also to see the ships being used in something like a dogfight scenario. You can see that CCP Games are working on Valkyrie. Maybe they can take some hints from there and put in the ships just in a small dogfighting scene or something. It would be cool. Something that I would like. Of course, Destiny 2 is coming out around the same time that VR is really going to hit. You know, this fall or within this year. I think PlayStation is giving out their Project Morpheus, which is just called PlayStation VR. HTC is giving out theirs, and Oculus Rift is giving out their final product as well, I think. So next year is the games are just going to be VR, so maybe Destiny could have an optional VR part. That would be really cool. But, you know, the number one thing that I want for Destiny 2 is not as much in the game as around the game. I'm really hoping that Deej and the guys over at Bungie are going to continue to have this flow of information that we had now, because in the beginning there was no information, there was nothing, we were just speculating and hoping and wondering. But now we have the whole This Week at Bungie thing that gives us really good information every week, and I really hope that will continue with Destiny 2 and just be a steady flow of information. Really, that's something I feel is important for number 2. So what to do while we wait for the new expansions and for Destiny 2? I've been saying a lot, but I really recommend going and reading the Grimoire stories. My favorites are the Books of Sorrow, as I said, the story behind Dredgen Yor, which is the guy that owns THORN, previously known as Rose, and his meeting with Shin Malfur, which I don't want to spoil. Just go and read Dredgen Yor's stories, then you'll find the other characters around him. You can also go check out more information about Rasputin, Osiris, and the Crow, which were important characters. Maybe Destiny 2 could have like more from the pre-boot. You know, it's probably going to have it. We know that Destiny, the original Destiny, was cut up in pieces, and we don't know how much is missing. So maybe now we know that the Crow is in the game. The Queen, I'm not going to spoil it, but the Crow is in the game still. Osiris, we don't know anything where he is. Maybe he's coming in the next game. And the Rasputin, we've saved him, I don't know how many times. So maybe we'll get to see his animated character helping us out in the next one as well. But definitely go check out the Ishtar Collective and read all these Grimoire stories, because they're going to make you fall in love with Destiny all over again. Yeah, I guess that's it. Make sure to leave a like, a subscribe, and comment below what you want to see in Destiny 2. Until the next time, I guess, just have a good one.